دكتور أحمد، بما أنك كنت أمينا عاما للاتحاد من أجل المتوسط، أريد أن أعرف تحديدا برأيك لماذا هذه التجربة لم تكن ناجحة أبدا؟ هل ذلك مرده إلى عدم معرفة أوروبية أو غربية أو قلة وعي بقضايا العالم العربي تحديدا مثلا، أم أن هناك تعامل، يعني تحدثتم بإسهاب جميعا عن قضايا الإرهاب الدولي، بغض النظر عن هذا الإرهاب علما بما له من انعكاسات سلبية، هل هذه الأنظمة العربية الدكتاتورية الجامدة هي سبب أساسي في عدم التوصل إلى أي حوار وعرقلة أي حوار متوسط وإيجاد مؤسسات على غرار الوضع كما هو في أوروبا وفي دول ديمقراطية أخرى؟ شكرا.
Before I let the panel answer, we'll take two more questions. Please, Professor Carlo Piglia from the International School for Reconciliation and Mediation in Sardinia.
Sono Carlo Piglia, mi presento, docente all'Università di Cagliari, presidente dell'Associazione Mediatori Mediterranei. Istituzioni entrambe da tempo impegnate nelle attività formative, di ricerche culturali in materia di mediazione e più in generale di strumenti di risoluzione amichevole dei conflitti in ambito nazionale e internazionale. Rivolgo una domanda. Quale ruolo assume la mediazione internazionale nelle strategie di risoluzione pacifica dei conflitti e nel processo di sviluppo condiviso del Mediterraneo e del Golfo Arabo? Come possiamo noi, dall'hub della Sardegna, insieme alle prestigiosissime istituzioni oggi presenti, sviluppare la cultura della mediazione internazionale attraverso una rinnovata rete di cooperazione e formazione dislocata in tutte le sponde del Mediterraneo e del Golfo Arabo? Noi, mediatori mediterranei, ascoltiamo fiduciosi e disponibili a dare un nostro contributo per la costruzione della pace. Grazie.
And we have a question also from Marilyn Khalifa from Safir newspaper.
مرحبا، مارلين خليفة، صحفية لبنانية. عندي سؤال عن الطرق العملية لكيفية مكافحة تمويل الإرهاب. بدنا نسمع شيء عملي، هل في مخططات استراتيجية معينة؟ وكيف ممكن حماية الشباب الأوروبي والشباب بالشرق الأوسط اثنيناتهم من أنه ينجرفوا بالتيارات المتطرفة وينضموا لمنظمات إرهابية؟ شكرا. سؤال لأستاذ محمد دحلان ولا أستاذ دكتور مساعدة كمان.
We'll take another question from Mr. Rafat Najjar from Al-Arabiya.
I will say the question in Arabic language, and this question is for the two honorable speakers of NATO. Okay, this the question is in Arabic. نحن نعرف في العالم العربي أن تركيا عضو في حلف الناتو، عضو بارز وعضو فعال، ونعرف أيضا أن تركيا برغم ذلك وبرغم مشاركتها في حلف مناهضة الإرهاب هي أيضا تأوي الزعماء الإخوان الذين نعتبرهم غير مسلمين أو الإخوان المسلمين كما يدعون، تأوي زعماءهم وتعتبرهم مصر زعماء للإرهاب، وكذلك تساعد كما يعلم البعض مننا تساعد أيضا داعش، منظمة داعش الإرهابية. فكيف يتوازن ذلك الأمر بالنسبة لتركيا كعضو في التحالف الدولي ضد الإرهاب وكعضو في حلف الناتو؟ شكرا.
As we are running out of time, I will give every speaker a chance to answer the questions, and if we have more time, we will take some more questions. We may need the mic here, please. We may need the mic for the speakers, so if I will give 2 minutes for each speaker to address the questions.
So I've been entitled by my distinguished colleague, Mr. Dahlan, to speak on his behalf. I'm not sure if I can manage that. Well, the question that was asked by the editor-in-chief of France 24 is a very important one. We have to remember that the Barcelona process started in the context of the Arab-Israeli peace process that was intended to have a sort of a Marshall Plan that will go hand in hand after Oslo. Unfortunately, due to the fact that we faltered in the political endeavor to achieve peace in the region, we ended up with a hollow program in the Barcelona process. And then in that context, there has been the French vision to redevelop this institution or this framework of cooperation into what is called the Union for the Mediterranean. However, the Union for the Mediterranean from day one found itself stuck again in regional politics and in the fact that we could not move on the peace process between the Arabs and the Israeli. And today we continue to have more faltering in the establishment of the Palestinian state. This is number one of the issues. Number two, I have to tell you from an experience, and today maybe I can follow your course and speak freely. I don't think that there has been really an agreement among EU countries on a common policies towards the Mediterranean. Without naming countries, we know that there were countries which were not that enthusiastic towards the Mediterranean as opposed to other countries. And I think that these differences that were going on between European countries also put a heavy burden on the Union for the Mediterranean. Thirdly, obviously we have static, if I may call it, Arab regimes, which really did not channel the issue of cooperation into where it was meant to go, i.e., political development, pluralism, serious economic development. It was more of a sort of, I call it a Photoshop opportunity for all these meetings, you know, for the Arab officials and possibly for the European officials. So basically, that institution needed teeth. It needed depth. And today, after 5 years or so, we have 13 projects put online. None has been executed. We don't have funding. And the EU and the international organizations keep talking about funding, but where is the money? At the end of the day, you need proper mega economic projects whereby you can link the countries and the nations on the southern rim of the Mediterranean in order to achieve a proper development. Today, what we're seeing, probably I call it a solo project in Gaza, which I do not consider as regional, if I may. It's more of a political project on sewage and water development matters. Again, I think that today we need to have a different vision in terms of cooperation. I do not really believe that you can cluster the regional cooperation extending from Turkey to Morocco on the same issues. Morocco and Tunisia, North Africa has different issues to what we have in the Levant. And again, I do believe that there are different interests among the EU countries, the Scandic as opposed to the Mediterranean. So I really believe that we need to cluster things more and try to avoid the problems that we faced in the beginning. And for sure, politics remain to be important in the context of cooperation. On the issue of youth, if I may just take this quickly also, I believe that we need an enlightening project in the region today. You know, in order to bring out the youth from the way of thinking, the stereotype of thinking that has been implemented over the years by, again, conservative, static Arab governments, I do believe that we have to need a new cooperation program enlightening youth based on what I said in my intervention, that has to take into consideration empowerment, governance, more pluralism, proper development, proper economic opportunities, and try to end the issue of unemployment and non-education on the southern rim of the Mediterranean. If we do not face these issues properly, all of us as partners, I think that we are all doomed. It won't work.
Thank you, Doctor. You took Mr. Dahlan's 2 minutes as well. So
I have 4 minutes anyway, yeah?
yes, exactly.
Give it to Dr. Ahmed, because he
Of course. Of course. Please. Please, 2 minutes. 2 minutes, دكتور.
أنا هتكلم بالعربي الحقيقة عشان موضوع التمويل. التمويل، وأنا تحدثت باستفاضة على هذا الأمر، لأن أنا يعني أحس أن المجتمع الدولي وبعض الحكومات لم تنتبه حتى هذه اللحظة إلى خطورة عمليات التمويل والأعمال الخيرية ورفع المساهمات لبناء مساجد وخلافه. يعني يجب أن نفرق بين أعمال خيرية تتم في نهاية الأمر لصالح الدعوة ولصالح الهدف الحميد لإقامة دار عبادة وخلافه، وبين أن نستغل هذا الإطار لتوجيه الأموال إلى أغراض أخرى. وأعتقد أن هناك أمثلة كثيرة. يعني مثلا عندما كان محمد مرسي رئيس مصر، كان التحويلات من الإخوان المسلمين في منطقة الخليج إلى مصر بيتم عبر القنوات الشرعية، وكان بيتم في إطار متزايد. لما انتهى هذا الأمر مفيش تحويلات رسمية بتتم، وكلها الفلوس لو حد عايز يبعت فلوس يحطها في جيبه أو بيبعتها عن طريق واحد صديق للوطن وخلافه، عشان ما يدخلهاش في الأرقام الرسمية ويضعف السياسة النقدية المصرية القائمة. يعني ده فكر. الفكر الثاني، هل سألنا مثلا نفسنا على سبيل المثال، وده يعني المسألة دي موجودة في مصر، أضاحي عيد الأضحى اللي هي بالملايين اللي هي في مصر، لماذا كان يحتكرها شخص واحد بس في مصر اللي كان بيحصل على فراء الخروف بالملايين ببلاش من غير فلوس، وياخد هذه ويبيعها للشركات الكبرى والمصانع الكبرى اللي هي بتصنع الأغطية والبطاطين الصوفية وخلافه. علينا ان احنا نتصور حجم البروفيت او الربح الكبير جدا، ولم تنتبه الدولة ولم ينتبه المجتمع الدولي، لحد ما يعني شاب صغير في مصلحة الضرائب قال الله، ده فلان الفلاني ده في 3 أيام جمع أكتر من 600 مليون جنيه مصر، 600 مليون جنيه مصري من فراء الأضحية الرسمية. يعني أنا بقول إيه، هذه الأمثلة غريبة على المجتمع الغربي. وإذا كان هناك تعاون، عليكم أن تستفيدوا من التجارب اللي احنا خضناها والدروس المستفادة واللي وصلنا له في نهاية الأمر لتكفيف منابع تمويل الإرهاب.
Thank you, Doctor. You can give the mic to Dr. Bird.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of very brief points on how to protect our youth so they don't go to join the Islamic State. We've already heard the sort of statesman-like reply, but the additional factor is the society needs to support its own. It goes down to the family level, which is why it's such a difficult thing to try and help provide a solid basis for youth. Bringing up a child is not an easy thing anyway. When that child becomes a hot-headed teenager, it's really hard. We've all lived through this. Knowing what your child is thinking, who your child is mixing with, where your child wants to go, what their ideas are, these are things that have to be handled with great delicacy. So providing support to youth is going to be a problem forever, I would argue. We can put in place the sort of government tripwires, the ministerial level, the school level type things, but it comes down to family and friends support networks. The specific question about Muslim Brotherhood individuals in Turkey, I'm afraid we really can't comment. This is an internal issue for Turkey and a bilateral issue between Turkey and Egypt. So I'm afraid, at least from NATO's point of view, I have no comment on this. Thanks.
نخلي Dr. Fabrizio first and then...
Thank you. Very briefly, terrorism, as we listened today, is a very complex phenomenon and has different stages. I agree with Dr. Bird when she is saying that Syria and Iraq, we have an insurgency with terrorist tactics. And having said that, we have anyway to take into consideration that we need an action, not only best practices, lesson learned, and many of the things. I love the international organization, particularly NATO, and I want more NATO in this field. I mean that we need to be more proactive with concrete measures, because also when we have to take into consideration all the root causes that has been mentioned, and that we know since a long time, because if we go to the Arab Human Development Reports from the year 2000, it was there, all the economic problems, the youth unemployment, and I was mentioning tomorrow, scarcity of water, when you take into consideration that many countries, they have rivers as borderlines. So these are all factors, future factors of instability that can provide a breeding ground for terrorists in the future. What mediation can be made? Cagliari will be, for instance, the capital of culture in a few years. You can promote master's programs on security studies, bridging the two shores of the Mediterranean. There are many initiatives we can do. And there is also the money, because when we see that the money of the European Union that has been spent in the past for projects that was totally ineffective, maybe we have to take this lesson learned and to go ahead with different programs. And this is what we are doing here. When I'm saying that I want to see more European Union and more NATO, I don't want to avoid the question on Turkey. Turkey is a pillar of NATO, of course, and it was a pillar during the Cold War, and it's going to be even more in the future in the region. And probably the question that one colleague was asking is going to be answered directly to the new Secretary General of NATO that was flying, maybe also to get an answer to this question today in Ankara. So I'm not actually a NATO officer, so I cannot answer on him, but this is a real question, is a question that we have to address with the right answer. In conclusion, I want also to remind anyway to all of us that is a complex phenomenon, terrorism, that must be addressed firstly, look into the root causes, but we don't have to lose sight that anyway this is a crime, and we must prosecute this as what it is.
Thank you, Doctor. Mr. Dahlan has a final comment. I'll give you 1 minute and then we'll have to wrap up.
1 minute is enough for Turkey. يعني أنا أجد يعني العذر الكبير لزملائي إنه عن تركيا إنه يعني ما يجاوبوا على سؤال الزميل، وهذا سبب زيادة الإرهاب بالمناسبة. يعني إذا كان أشخاص غير قادرين على حكي رأي شخصي، فما بالك المسؤولين الأوروبيين سواء الناتو أو الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية. تركيا هي التي تشتري البترول من داعش اللي حكى عنه الدكتور في سوريا في السوق السوداء، وتركيا هي التي اشترت البترول من الأكراد وتسببت في مشكلة بين الأكراد والحكومة المركزية في العراق، وتركيا هي التي سهلت دخول المقاتلين الأجانب إلى سوريا، وتركيا هي التي تساهم في عدم الاستقرار في ليبيا الآن وتدعم جماعات إسلامية متطرفة، وتركيا هي التي تقود الحرب السياسية على مصر الآن لضمان عدم الاستقرار. إذا لم نكن نتجرأ في تحديد المخطئ الآن، وهي حرب مع الإرهاب تدور في 5 دول تقريبا في العالم العربي، مع وجود مساهمات إرهابية بين قوسين من إرهابيين يأتوا من 80 دولة أوروبية إلى منطقتنا. متى سنكون صرحاء مع بعضنا البعض ونضع حلول؟ شكرا جزيلا.
This debate can go for longer. There are a lot of questions, I know, but we have to end. We've taken too long. Thank you very much for listening and for attending. Please welcome to lunch.